Hey, it's the Four with Playboy,
And my Playboys Bunny.
and welcome to our podcast where we discuss pickup, game, relationships,
And sex.
and today we're going to be like the History Channel. So, no, don't turn it off. Don't
go anywhere.
Don't run off. Don't run off. The subject today is why does game exist now?
Yeah.
Romantic persistence is over.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, there's a lot of, let's at least put some certain foundational rules here. You have to believe game exists, which is learned charisma.
Right.
And you have to believe that it works, at least most of it for most guys that actually apply it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can't go into the does it work? Because yes, it does.
Right.
These are assumptions that we're going to make. Why does game exist now? And it's probably only existed since the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, I agree.
With the invention of, basically with the internet being able to disseminate information. Because let's just give comparison. I graduated high school in 86, went into college through 91. And the only thing I remember that was about that you could actually buy was How to Pick Up Girls.
Yeah.
It was a black book with a white cover, and you had to order it in the mail. Even like Playboy magazine, even like the magazines didn't ever talk about dating or dating skills.
Fascinating.
Not that I can ever remember. There's no tutorials or, 3 things to do on a first date.
And you were really reading them cover to cover.
Basically,
so
yes.
You would have caught it.
Yeah, well, my dad tore the pictures out before he gave them to me. So I have some great literature. So this is the deal. We're going to talk about why does game exist? Because it's a necessary tool due to endless dating. And that's the deal. My theory is it's social and economic.
Yeah.
Is, dating and male-female relationships have changed. The way they were from like the 1900s all the way up to even like late 80s, which I can recall.
Yeah.
The dynamic started changing late 90s with the advent of like online dating, I would say. It had a big part of it.
Oh, yeah.
And then the internet.
Well, I remember I started college in 1996. Right. And I remember having the internet and having an email and going to chat rooms in the college dorm.
Exactly.
Which was a brand new thing.
In late 90s, I still had to go to a payphone and put a quarter in and dial it.
Right.
And her mom would pick up and I would say, "Is Julie there?
Yeah.
Can I speak with Julie?" It was different.
Good
That's
evening,
a big
Mrs.
difference.
Jones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it took the parental units control out of it, I would say. But here's what I would suggest. There's 4 reasons socially what has changed.
Yeah.
What changed in that period. Back in the day, a girl may speak to her dad, her brothers, one, maybe 2 select friends at school, guy friends, and that's it.
Right.
That's who they had interactions with as far as the opposite sex.
Exactly.
It was very limited. Very limited. And 2...
Purposefully so.
Yeah. And girls had a small selection of men to choose from.
Yeah.
Generally, it was like friends of a friend, somebody you might meet at a party. The big thing was to go to a party for another school in town.
Yeah.
That was when you're like, oh, look at all these new people.
Yeah.
And that was still a very limited, she might have 10 or 15 guys max.
In her lifetime.
Yeah, in her lifetime
Yeah.
to choose from. And there was no anonymity.
No.
Anywhere your girlfriend had to drive you there. Everybody knew what you were doing. And there was just, you were very rarely alone.
If your parents' friends saw you out, they called your parents.
Exactly. So what changed was with the advent of like cell phones, smartphones, internet, it just exploded the number of men and that women can
It's
contact.
true.
Yeah, because
It's
what do we call a
box of
smartphone?
dicks.
A box of dicks.
And that I say that was true even before the smartphones became a thing, because I can remember my cell phones even before I would text on them, before that was even really a thing, having that mobile phone.
Yeah.
You know, and being able to call from anywhere.
Exactly.
Therefore, privacy, instead of in the middle of your household with the cord pulling across 5 rooms
Oh,
and stuff
yeah.
like that. There was no privacy in
No.
having conversation with your boyfriend or girlfriend then.
And then the selection exploded at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
The number of guys, I mean, you know, if you're on the internet and they're chatting
You're
in
in
forums.
chat rooms or forums with people who knew where.
Yeah. And that was when you really started like, because in the 80s, if you were in Fort Worth and you dated somebody in Dallas, it was like $1 a minute for a long distance
Oh my
call.
word. My father would lose
everybody-
his mind.
And this is normal. You know, I mean, so you just never had any long distance relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you going to do? You wrote a letter.
Well, literally, even gosh, this really is a History Channel episode. My
Yeah.
word, just shoot me. But I mean, even the local calls cost money.
Exactly.
10 cents a minute, 12 cents a minute. I mean, it was
If
just,
you're, especially if you're on a cell phone.
my God.
Yeah.
Oh, that was dollars.
Yeah.
That was dollars.
And now a girl, if she has a car, and especially if she's in college in a relatively large town, she can be as anonymous as a spy. I mean,
Yeah.
she
Truly.
can, and that's, you know, that's where girls like travel. If they are kind of in a small town, they travel to a larger city on
Yeah.
the weekends and hook up, or they travel to like Mexico and hook up. You know,
Right.
That's where the anonymity kind of like lets everything loose.
Yeah, for sure.
And these are all major things that change the dynamic.
Yeah, think of our grandmothers when they would travel. It wasn't for anonymity. They traveled with other family members. They traveled with a chaperone. They traveled to see family. They didn't just travel
No.
just willy-nilly on their
No,
own.
no. I mean, you had to be way up there on the socioeconomic scale to travel like New York City for Christmas or, you know, for the
Sure,
holidays.
sure.
And now people put it together and do it for $500.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's things changed in so many facets as far as like ability to reach out and, you know, communicate to a larger group. Girls started getting social media like ego boosts. You
Yes.
know, a 220-pound girl posts a picture on Facebook and everybody's telling her how beautiful she is. When in like 1984, she heard nothing.
She would have been
She would have been like going to a fat farm.
ostracized. Seriously.
Going
She-
to a fat farm in the summer.
She would have no friends
Yeah.
in school. She would have, she would be sent off.
Yeah.
Seriously, this is
It
not
was-
that long ago.
No.
We are not that old.
No. I mean, it changed. I mean, so you have very average in appearance.
Yeah.
Girls getting that eat up. I mean, kind of like what we say, like a 4 is a 7 and,
Oh,
you
my
know,
goodness.
a 5 is an 8, you
Yeah,
know,
seriously.
on social media, and it's just getting pumped. And so realistic, you know, a nice beta guy in the 80s could have a nice little wife,
Yeah.
you know, that lasted his entire life.
Exactly.
She didn't wander off.
They could have a great
She wasn't on
marriage.
Facebook with her girlfriends from high school, you know, complaining about, you know, he's a mechanic.
Yeah.
Or, you know, he works at a factory, or, you know, he doesn't do this, or she's comparing herself to her girlfriends who married an executive.
Yeah.
You know, there was less comparison,
There was.
you know, and economically, again, even into the mid 80s, guys that graduated a little bit before me, who basically had a full beard and a flannel shirt and a shotgun in the rear view
Yeah.
of their truck, they'd take a job at General Motors the day they graduated high school.
Yeah.
And by end of summer, they'd have a house
True.
and they could be married.
Absolutely.
And over the next 23, they could have a vacation house. They could have multiple cars. They could send their kids to school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, economically, you could go further with less.
Yeah.
And
for
now
sure.
you have PhDs, you know, selling Starbucks coffee.
It's true.
You know, so it was easier to lay down a foundation 30 years ago to get a wife, to lay down, you know, because what's a girl want to do at the end of the day? She wants to have babies.
Yeah.
And to have babies, she has to meet a guy that will marry her. And she has to get the proposal. And she has to get the wedding. And they have to get the house. Well, if he's making $12 an hour at Target,
Yeah.
it ain't going anywhere.
No.
She can like him as much as she wants.
Yeah.
But she can even marry him. But they're not going to be able to afford anything.
No.
You know? And that's the fact.
It's a very hard truth, but
Yeah.
it's still the truth.
Economically, it's become a very small group of men that can afford even just to get married, to have kids, to support the family,
Yeah.
even if she's working,
Yeah.
which, you know, triples the workload for everybody,
It does.
you know. And so economically, socially and economically, things changed. And that's where game came in.
Yeah.
Because girls, for lack of a better word, became pickier they had to, or they could become pickier. And the guys that weren't alpha, naturals, were getting left in the dust. So they started saying, well, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
And they started saying, well, what if we pretend? What
Yeah.
if we act as if? And it works.
It does work.
And that's where game, and literally, you know, over like with Royce, which started writing in 2007,
Yeah.
you know, which I read a lot of his stuff. So you got to remember, like, if he was writing in 2007, it had been rolling since about 2002, 2001,
Yeah.
you know, to build up to that point where there's a tipping point where you had the language,
Yeah.
the definitions, you know, bouncing and, you know, amused mastery and all these things in a system of, you know, inner game and confidence and what components had to be there in order to pretend to be an alpha long enough that you picked up those traits.
Yeah, and I
You
think
know?
that's an important key to always remember. You only pretend so long. It
Yeah.
actually, you take on the mannerisms, you take on the belief system.
Exactly.
And it becomes embedded in the way you carry yourself.
Exactly.
It's not, you're not going through the world for the rest of
Pretending,
your life
acting.
pretending to
No.
be someone you're not.
It's like if you're not getting a lot of women in bed, you start working on game. Very soon, you start getting more women in bed. And very soon you become the guy who gets a lot of women in bed.
Yeah.
That's how it works. You know, it's like step one, you don't really have any evidence. Then you start building the evidence, and then you actually are that person.
Yeah.
But game came from the social and economic dynamics changing to where your average guy doesn't have much of a shot
Yeah.
at finding one girl to spend his life with and have fun with.
Yeah.
And, you know, over time, and of course, everything gets corrupted sometimes.
Yeah.
And so most people think of game as the guy that sleeps with lots of women for a long time and never stops. And that's the only reason he knows it. But most guys learn game to meet one girl that they
Right.
can like settle down with.
Right.
It's true. I mean, that's the vast majority.
They may kiss a lot of frogs along the way.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Yeah.
They
there's
learn a lot, but most guys have no intention of like just dating around because it's exhausting. It's not good economically. you can't pass on your genes.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and game remains a thing in relationship.
Exactly.
It enhances and I think improves
Yeah.
relationships for long-term success as well.
And we can even say this: guys that don't have game can almost assure fidelity and a very balanced and what would you say, a stable marriage if he gets married younger, preferably, and they move in across the street from his mom
Yeah.
and his dad,
Yeah.
and his sister lives next door, and his wife goes to the store with his sister. I mean, that's how things used to stay in line.
That's right.
Girls
it
had-
helped keep things in line to be surrounded by family.
Yeah, exactly. They never have time to run around
No.
or even think about it.
No.
I mean, and a busy girl is a girl on a mission, raising her kids,
Yeah.
taking care of her household, working with her extended family,
Yeah.
and taking care of her husband.
Well, and that's another reason why, it's kind of playfully said to keep her pregnant. It's like a bored girl. You'll never find a bored girl who has an infant at home.
No. Girls that want drama, give them a baby. All kinds of drama. Drama every hour of every day. Yeah, it does. I mean,
It keeps
really,
them busy.
Yeah, it keeps them busy.
Because there's nothing worse than a bored girl. She will inevitably get in trouble.
And drag you down with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so those are this is the most esoteric, podcast we've done.
Drinking game for every time that Footwear says esoteric.
Which I'm not even sure if I'm using it right.
You are.
Okay,
You are.
Good. But those are the reasons. And a lot of this, because a lot of times people are in game and you don't know the history of it.
Yeah.
Because like late 90s, Mystery came on the scene, Ross Jeffries. These guys kind of like started learning how to stop girls on the street, start a conversation,
Yeah.
which is insane. And they started with nothing.
Yeah.
They started with, kind of a framework, and then they build it from there.
Well, I know we have it, but when was it called The Game?
And that was, yeah, exactly. That was probably a tipping point.
Yeah.
I want to say, don't hold me to this because I can't see it. 2010,
Okay.
2012,
Okay.
relatively early. And then they all got in the house.
Yeah.
But I never watched any of that.
Yeah.
I was still married.
Yeah.
And it was not on my radar. So I didn't really get into this, 7 years?
Yeah.
Maybe 2015. It wasn't that long ago. So that's the real deal, is there was a need, and then somebody fulfilled the need. And these are the guys that, we know.
Yeah.
And then it just got better and better. It got a little bit corrupted, but it will still help you find a girlfriend or a wife.
Yeah.
And it'll also help you keep your relationship together.
Yeah.
Once you have that. So game has a purpose and a place, especially today when, social media kind of corrupts, and we're not close to our families, or, you're 2,000 miles away from your family.
Yeah.
And she is too. So you kind of have to use other artificial means to kind of keep everything together.
Well, and I would say that in the time where even when she didn't have a large exposure to men or other men or whatever, and I can't think of the phrase that you use now, but game in the happiest relationships, you can still see game at play. It just wasn't called that. It was a genuine just charisma.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think of my dad popping my mom with the towel,
God, that's
and
good
her
stuff.
giggling and running away, and I can think of my grandmother fawning all over my grandfather, just thinking he was the cutest thing in the whole wide world for 60 years of marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, these are, even turning to some of the black and white movies, it was the men with charisma who carried themselves with confidence and who essentially had all the traits that we talk about now in real life.
Naturally.
Yeah. And it just works.
Exactly.
Everybody's life is better.
Women benefit from this too.
Yeah.
They're happier. That's one thing that gets lost in the mix sometimes, is everybody always thinks game is just for men. Women want alphas.
Yeah.
And you can present those traits, she's happy as a lark.
Yeah.
It just pings off the right receptors in her brain.
And I feel like it gets a bad connotation as being manipulative, when really it's no different than learning a new language. It's, you learn this, you apply it, it gets you in more doors, and everyone wins.
Absolutely.
It's an improved quality of life.
Absolutely. Which is not how most people think of this game. They think of it, like you said, as kind of a low brow, or like we're fast talking our way into somebody's pants.
To me, it's like it's no different than Toastmasters. Toastmasters is very highbrow. It's thought very well of, and it's no fucking different than that.
No, you do have to learn. You get by trial and error. You just have to go in there and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get a framework, but you have to fill it out.
Exactly.
And then test it. And that's really game. You learn the trick, or you learn the the lesson, and
Yeah.
then you apply it, and then over time you internalize it.
Yeah.
So that is why game exists today,
Wow.
and it didn't have to exist before.
No.
There's no reason for it to be around in the early 80s,
Yeah.
late 80s, you know? So we hope you guys take something away from this.
We want you to win.
And because we forgot, my
We're
newsletter,
terrible at this. Terrible.
my newsletter and Bunny's newsletter is down below. Sign up if you want to see us, more of us, you know.
Because you can't get enough.
Exactly. And if you like this podcast, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share, and also comment below.
We love your comments.
Yeah, we like to hear what you think and how your grandparents or your parents met, and what works for you.
What your experiences are.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It is.
So, try it again.
We want you to win.